What's up, y'all? That's a tune called Humors of Enistymon, although I know it as Coppers and Brass. That's what I learned it as. And it was featured on a new Netflix show called Bridgerton. I have not yet watched that one, but I hear it's pretty popular, and a couple of the folks I play in the band with said that that tune was in it, which I thought was kind of cool, that they used like a good tune. This is one that I really like. It's a 3-part jig, if you didn't catch that. It's in the key of G, but it does some kind of cool things there in the second and third part, which is one of the reasons why I like it. So let's break it down. It's the whole A part. I'm not going to chop it up just because it is a 3-part tune, but I will run that again. Hopefully you can pick it up. Cool, that's the whole A part. B part is interesting because it jumps to an F sharp, which you wouldn't hear a lot of in G tunes, really, at least not as a main note, but that's what kind of makes this one cool. Hopefully you noticed that the ending of that tune was the same as the ending of the first part. Kind of a theme here that does repeat that, despite the fact that the parts are all kind of substantially different. There's a little bit of repetition. So I'm going to run that second part again, just so you get it. Now the third part jumps up all the way to the G, the high G, and it does this really kind of cool arpeggio thing, which I really like, sort of a hook of the tune. So here it is in slow motion. So again, that's that arpeggio thing that hopefully you've been practicing. It's a good exercise to get, and this is a good tune to put it in place. So let's try that again. Key thing to remember the second time through the C part, yep, is that it repeats the end of the A part. So it doesn't do the arpeggio the second half of that. Hopefully that makes sense. And if not, run through the way I played it originally so it'll kind of lock in, because it is a bit different in the second part. Lots of good spots in this tune to throw in some rolls and some triplets and things like that. Right off the bat, that's your basic melody. So you're sitting on that B. Good spot for a roll. That's the first thing that I would work in. You could do that tap on the C natural. That's one that, unless you've practiced it a bit, it feels a little strange because it doesn't come up that often, but that's a spot you could put it in. Now, going up to that D, could just carry the basic melody, that works. Or you can throw in a triplet. And it's especially helpful if you can catch that accidental G in there. And as I do that triplet down the G chord, double tap that F sharp. And then back around again. Now you can finish that phrase a couple of different ways. There, it stays on a D, or you can throw a cran in there. So for those of you not familiar with the cran, it's these three fingers, sort of like a triple cut, basically. And then I'll cut that A, just giving it that sort of stereotypical jig lift, and then a short roll to finish the phrase. Now, going from the G to the F sharp, a couple of ways you can get there to get to that second part. You could do a triplet, or you can go sort of just up the scale. Ultimately, you're trying to get to that F sharp. How you get there, you got a little bit of room to mess with it. Typically, is what I'll do is a triplet. So you can do a roll when you get there, and then I'll do a cut. I'll do a double cut, really, breaking that down slowly. That's the roll first. Two cuts right there, back to back. Then I hit that F sharp. I'll like to double tap that, mostly because that's one of the few that I can do well. I'm not quite as good at it on other fingers, so when I have the opportunity, I like it. Now I am doing a lot of tonguing just to give that jig groove. You could substitute cuts, taps, you could do things like that. That's one spot, particularly with jigs, where I do tend to use tonguing a bit more. So I'll do a short roll on the B just to punch that one up. So it does that big gap, a big jump, going from B to a high G. So I'll roll the G, and then an extra cut, accompanied by tonguing to break that up and give it that groove. Nothing but cuts there. I've mentioned before a few times in the upper octave, particularly the top hand of the upper octave, the more stuff you pile on, the more likely you are to screw it up and have a note break or just not sound in tune or not sound the way you want it to. So I'm always a big fan of keeping it simple, particularly in that second octave top hand. Now you can cran that as you land on that D if you want, or a single cut works just fine. That's all the same as we did in the A part. Getting to the C part, similar kind of question is, could you triple it up to that? And I will tongue just to separate that. So there's a bit of a gap. I really don't do anything there ornaments-wise except that first one. You could do an extra cut in there, but you'd have to tongue to get that. It just feels a little odd. I'll slide into that B, into a roll. That is one thing that's a little bit different there you can do. You can do a triplet there if you're doing well at triplets and you're feeling those, as opposed to subtle, but just a different way to get into that. So again, to finish up, the second time through, it does go back around. That's how we finished the first time. Second time, which again is how the A part ends. Hope you guys dig this tune. It just happened to come up in conversation that it was in that new show, and I figured it'd be a cool video to throw up because it's a great tune. It's a good session tune, goes well with one whose name I can't remember, but I'll post a link if I can find it. Dervish played it with Seamus Tansey sitting in on flute, and it was just a cool set. So if I can find it, I'll post a link. See if you can find other versions of it. It is a fairly common tune, so you should be able to find other people playing it and listen to some other folks' take on that and pick and choose what you like. Let me know what you think. I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers, guys.